The book cost me $4,000. $4,000 and 4 months of phone calls to rare book dealers from Edinburgh to San Francisco. First edition. Original dust jacket. Near mint condition. Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. Emma's favorite novel since college. She'd told me once, early in our marriage, that she'd dreamed of owning a first edition since she was 16 years old. I remembered. That's what husbands do. We remember. The maitre d' at La Fontaine knew us well enough to seat us at our usual table near the window. 12 years of anniversary dinners at this restaurant. 12 years of the same corner booth with the view of the courtyard garden. The same bottle of Chateauneuf du Pape. The same chocolate soufflé we always shared for dessert. Mr. Lawson, always a pleasure. Marco pulled out Emma's chair with practiced elegance. 12 years tonight, yes? The usual wine? Please. I watched Emma settle into her seat, the candlelight catching the emerald earrings I'd given her on our 5th anniversary. She looked beautiful. She always did. 35 years old and still turning heads when she walked through a room. I have something for you, I said, sliding the wrapped package across the white tablecloth. She smiled. That smile I'd fallen in love with 13 years ago at a mutual friend's wedding. Richard, you didn't have to. Open it. I watched her fingers work the ribbon. She was precise about these things, never tore paper, always preserved the wrapping. Watched her lift the lid. Watched her face as she recognized what she was holding. And I watched her freeze. It lasted exactly 2 seconds. Maybe 2.5. Her features locked into something I'd never seen before. Not surprise, not delight, but something closer to fear. Raw, unguarded fear. Then she recovered. Too quickly. Her smile returned, but now it was painted on. Mechanical. Richard. She leaned across the table to kiss me. It's perfect. You're perfect. The kiss landed on my lips like something rehearsed. Hollow. I know how much it means to you, I said, watching her. The search took months, but when I finally tracked one down in Scotland. Scotland? You really went to all that trouble? For you? Always. She placed the book carefully back in its box, handling it like it might shatter. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. The sommelier arrived with our wine. Emma seemed grateful for the interruption. She made small talk about her week, about a new account she was pursuing at work, about her mother's upcoming birthday. Normal conversation, surface level. But she kept glancing at the box. Every few minutes, her eyes would drift to it, and that flicker of something wrong would cross her face before she caught herself. That night, she claimed a migraine. Took 2 pills and went to bed early, curling up on her side of the mattress with her back to me. She didn't reach for my hand the way she usually did. Didn't press her feet against my calves for warmth. Feel better, I said to the back of her head. I lay awake until 3 in the morning, staring at the ceiling. 2 seconds. That's all it took. 2 seconds of unguarded truth on her face. What kind of wife looks afraid when her husband gives her exactly what she's always wanted? 3 days later, I came home early. A client had rescheduled our site consultation to the following week, and I found myself with an unexpected afternoon. I thought about calling Emma at work, maybe surprising her with dinner reservations. Being spontaneous. Romantic. Instead, I went to her reading nook. Emma had claimed the small room off our bedroom as her personal space when we'd bought the house 8 years ago. Built-in bookshelves lining 3 walls, a deep armchair by the window, good natural light. Her treasured editions shelf held maybe 30 books, first editions, signed copies, rare prints. The things she loved most. The Rebecca was already there. I hadn't placed it there. Emma must have done it herself, probably that first night while I was brushing my teeth or checking email. I picked it up, running my fingers over the dust jacket. Still perfect, still worth every penny. I opened it to the title page. The inscription wasn't mine. To my one and only love, you know who. March 15th. The handwriting was elegant, masculine, confident strokes of black ink on cream paper. The date was 3 months ago. Our anniversary was June 15th. Someone had given my wife this book before I had. Someone had written these words to her. Someone had called her his one and only love. I stood there for a long time. How long, I couldn't tell you. Time does strange things when your world tilts off its axis. Then I did something that surprised me. I didn't throw the book against the wall, didn't shout, didn't storm downstairs to call my wife and demand an explanation. I took out my phone, photographed the inscription page, returned the book exactly as I'd found it. Same angle, same position on the shelf. I left the room, closed the door quietly, and walked to my car. I sat in the driveway for 45 minutes, breathing slowly. In through the nose, out through the mouth. I'm an architect. I build things for a living. Structures that have to withstand time and weather and the unpredictable stresses of human use. The first thing you learn in architecture school is that foundations matter. You don't start constructing until you understand exactly what you're building on. So that's what I decided to do. Understand what I was building on. That evening, when Emma came home from work, I kissed her hello, asked about her day, poured her a glass of wine while she changed out of her work clothes. The book looks good on your shelf, I said. I noticed you put it there. I couldn't wait. She smiled. That painted smile again. I keep going in just to look at it. It really means that much to you? Richard, it means everything. She touched my cheek. You know me so well. I smiled back, and I started taking inventory. The cashmere scarf had appeared in February. Beautiful thing, deep burgundy, incredibly soft. Emma said she'd treated herself after closing a big account at work. Retail therapy, she'd laughed, wrapping it around her neck. I passed this little shop and couldn't resist. It looks expensive. Worth every penny. Sometimes a girl just needs something nice. The vintage earrings showed up in April. Art Deco, probably 1920s. Found them at an estate sale, she'd told me. The woman running it said they were her grandmother's, too beautiful to pass up. The leather journal came last month. Hand-stitched binding, thick cotton paper. For my writing, she'd explained. I saw it in a shop window and something just spoke to me. 11 items total. I cataloged them all that week, lying awake at night reconstructing the timeline from memory. 11 gifts that had appeared over 14 months. All beautiful, all expensive, all things Emma claimed she'd bought for herself. The scarf still had a small tag tucked into an inner seam. Jonathan's Haberdashery, Portland, Maine. We'd never been to Portland together. I bought a laptop, paid cash at a big box store 40 miles from our house, and started a spreadsheet. Dates, descriptions, possible origins. Patterns emerged. Every gift appeared shortly after one of Emma's writing retreats. She'd started those 18 months ago, right around our 10th anniversary. Told me she wanted to try her hand at writing a novel. Literary fiction, she said. Something meaningful. I've been feeling creatively stifled, she'd said one evening, her head on my shoulder as we watched television. I used to write in college, remember? Before everything got practical. I remember. You showed me some of your poems. They were terrible. They were honest. That's what mattered. She'd kissed my temple. I want to try again. There's a cabin rental place a few hours north. Quiet, isolated. I could go on weekends, really focus. I'd supported her, encouraged her, helped her research cabin rentals, kissed her goodbye on Friday evenings and welcomed her home Sunday nights, asking about her word count and whether she'd had any breakthroughs. Slow going, she'd say, but I'm finding my voice. She's not a writer. She works in pharmaceutical sales. But I believed her when she said she wanted to try something new. That's what husbands do. We believe. On a Thursday afternoon, I called the cabin rental company she'd mentioned, gave them her name, and asked to confirm an upcoming reservation. "I'm sorry, sir. We don't have any record of an Emma Lawson. Are you sure you have the right company? Maybe she booked under a different name. My wife has been coming up there for over a year, every few weekends. Small cabins, isolated. Sir, I've worked here for 15 years. I'd recognize a regular. We don't have any record of your wife." I thanked her and hung up. I was sure. Jonathan's Haberdashery, Portland. This is Gerald speaking. The man had a warm voice, Boston accent, probably a transplant who'd moved to Maine and never looked back. "I'm hoping you can help me," I said. "My wife received a beautiful scarf from your shop, a gift from a friend. I'd love to send a thank you note, but I'm embarrassed to say I've forgotten the gentleman's name." "Oh, of course. We love connecting our customers. What did the scarf look like?" I described it. Deep burgundy, cashmere, probably purchased in February. "That sounds like something Dr. Ashford would choose." "Lovely man. Very particular taste. He's one of our regulars, comes up from Boston every few weeks." "Dr. Ashford?" I forced lightness into my voice. "That's right. I don't suppose you'd have a mailing address for him? For the thank you note?" "I'm sorry, I couldn't give that out. But I believe he teaches at one of the universities down there. You might try looking him up through the school." "That's very helpful. Gerald, was it? I might stop by sometime. My wife says you carry exceptional quality." "We try our best, sir. Hope to see you." I thanked him and hung up. Dr. William Ashford. That night, after Emma fell asleep, I searched for him online. The faculty page at his university included a professional headshot. Silver-haired, distinguished. The kind of face you'd expect to see on a book jacket or a PBS documentary. 45 years old. Tenured professor of English literature. Divorced twice. His specialty was Gothic fiction. He'd published 2 books and dozens of articles. His primary area of expertise was Daphne du Maurier. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I clicked on his upcoming events tab. There it was. Third item from the top. Weekend Writing Workshop, Finding Your Gothic Voice. Location: the Briarwood Retreat Center. The address was 2 hours north of our house. Same direction as Emma's cabin. I drove to Portland the following Saturday. Emma was at her yoga retreat, another fiction I now understood, so I had the whole day. Jonathan's Haberdashery occupied a corner lot on a tree-lined street in the old part of the city. Red brick, brass fixtures, the kind of place that survived for generations by knowing its customers. Gerald turned out to be exactly what his voice suggested. 70-something, gray-haired, with the easy manner of a man who'd spent his life making people feel welcome. "I'm looking for a gift for my wife," I told him. "A friend recommended your shop, Dr. Ashford, actually. He said you carry the best cashmere in New England." "Bill Ashford?" "Oh yes, he's been coming here for years. Man knows quality, I'll give him that." Gerald guided me to a display of scarves. His lady friend seemed to appreciate the burgundy number he picked out last winter. "Lady friend?" "Oh, just something he mentioned. Seemed quite taken with her." Gerald held up a navy scarf. "Something like this for your wife? Similar weight to what Dr. Ashford purchased." "He's a regular then?" "Every 3 or 4 weeks. Always pays cash. Very particular about gift wrapping. Wants everything just so. Mentioned once that his special friend lives a few hours south and appreciates the finer things." Gerald smiled. "Nice to see a man so attentive, don't you think?" I bought the scarf, paid cash, made small talk about the weather and the Red Sox and the rising cost of everything these days. I learned more than I came for. My wife, apparently, appreciated the finer things. 2 weeks later, I attended one of Dr. Ashford's public lectures. The university's English department hosted a series on Gothic literature and the modern psyche, open to the public. I registered online under a false name and drove down to Boston on a Tuesday evening. I sat in the back row of the auditorium and watched the man who was sleeping with my wife. He was good. I'll give him that. Magnetic in the way that certain academics are, the kind who've spent decades learning how to command a room. He spoke about Du Maurier's Rebecca for 45 minutes without notes, moving across the stage, making eye contact with the audience, pausing at exactly the right moments for effect. The brilliance of the novel, he said, lies in its understanding of obsession. The unnamed narrator is consumed by the ghost of Rebecca, a woman she never met, yet who dominates her marriage, her thoughts, her very sense of self. This is what Gothic literature does best. It shows us that the past is never truly past. It haunts us. It shapes us. It determines who we become. His hands moved constantly as he spoke. Expansive gestures, confident and theatrical, the hands of a man accustomed to being the center of attention. I imagined those hands on my wife's body. I imagined them touching her the way I once did. A woman in the front row asked a question about the power dynamics in the novel. Ashford leaned toward her, smiled warmly, gave an answer that made her blush. He was a performer, a seducer. I understood now how Emma had fallen. I left before the Q&A session ended. I'd seen enough. Tyler Bennett's office occupied the top floor of a glass tower downtown. Mahogany desk, leather chairs, the kind of original artwork on the walls that costs more than most people's cars. Bennett specialized in high-asset divorce cases. His reputation was formidable. "I'm not ready to file yet," I told him. "I need to understand my options." He leaned back in his chair, tenting his fingers. "Tell me what you know." I told him. The inscription, the gifts, the fake retreats, the professor from Boston. "Do you have documentation?" "I'm working on it." "Good." Bennett nodded slowly. In this state, infidelity can significantly impact divorce proceedings, particularly if marital assets were used to fund the affair. But documentation is everything, Mr. Lawson. Suspicion isn't proof. I told him about Emma's spending. The self-purchased gifts. The cash withdrawals I'd started noticing in our joint accounts. Small amounts, $500 here, $800 there, always labeled household expenses. How much total? I've tracked about $15,000 so far. Going back 14 months? Bennett's eyes sharpened. That's significant. If you can prove those funds went to support the affair or build an escape fund. An escape fund? It's common. The betraying spouse slowly siphons money over months, sometimes years, building a safety net for when they finally leave. He studied me. "You seem remarkably calm about all this." "I'm an architect. I don't start building until I understand the foundation." "Good approach. Keep tracking everything. Dates, amounts, purposes. And Mr. Lawson, don't confront her yet. The longer she thinks you don't know, the more mistakes she'll make." My friend Derek had worked in digital forensics before going private sector. We'd known each other since college. Not close friends exactly, but the kind of acquaintances who grab a beer once or twice a year and swap stories. "Hypothetically," I said, sitting across from him at a sports bar near his office, "if someone wanted to track location data from a phone, how would they do it?" Derek raised an eyebrow. "Hypothetically?" "Just curious. Professional interest." He snorted. "Right." He took a long pull from his beer. "Look, I'm not going to ask what's going on, but I'll tell you what I tell anyone. Most people don't realize how much their phones track them." "Meaning?" "Cloud backups, location services, metadata. Most people set up shared cloud accounts years ago and forget about them. Everything still syncs. Photos, notes, location history. All just sitting there, waiting for someone to look. And that's legal? Looking at your own family's cloud account? If it's your account, your name on it, absolutely. Derek leaned forward. But Richard, whatever you're dealing with, be careful. The goal is to protect yourself, not destroy yourself. That night, I logged into our family cloud account. The one Emma and I had set up years ago for photo backups, back when we were still talking about having children. She'd forgotten about it. I could tell because her phone was still syncing, uploading everything automatically. Her location history told a story. Not the retreat center anymore. The affair had moved past that. For the last 6 months, Emma had been traveling to Vermont, a small town I'd never heard of. The visits were monthly, sometimes twice monthly. Always on weekends when she claimed to be at a conference or a retreat or visiting her college roommate in Connecticut. I wrote down the address. The cottage was exactly what I expected. Small, charming, isolated. The kind of place that looks like it belongs on the cover of a bed and breakfast brochure. Cedar shingles, window boxes with flowers, a real estate sign in the front yard, for sale. I parked my rental car down the road and called the number on the sign. Pritchard Realty, this is Brenda. I'm calling about the Willow Lane property in Stowe. The cottage that's for sale? Oh yes, lovely place. Are you interested in scheduling a viewing? I am. What can you tell me about it? The owner is relocating. Divorce settlement, you know how it goes. He's been using it as a writing retreat, but now he needs to liquidate. Very motivated seller. Writing retreat? Yes, a professor from Boston. Very literary, if you know what I mean. Uses it for quiet weekends away from the university. She laughed. Though I imagine he won't miss the drive. I scheduled a viewing for the following afternoon. The tour took 30 minutes. Brenda, chatty, eager, clearly hungry for a commission, showed me every room. The living area with its stone fireplace, the updated kitchen with its granite countertops, the bedroom with its view of the mountains. I noted the books on the nightstand. Gothic literature. Du Maurier, Wilkie Collins, Henry James. I noted the woman's robe hanging in the bathroom. Pale blue. Emma's favorite color. I noted the photographs on the mantel. Dr. Ashford with various dignified-looking people. No women in the pictures. Not anymore. The professor seems like he has excellent taste, I said. Dr. Ashford? Oh yes, very refined. A shame about his situation. She lowered her voice conspiratorially. Second divorce, you know. They say the third time's the charm, but I wonder if some people ever learn. I asked about the price, made interested noises, promised to be in touch. I left with more information than I'd come for. Emma's Notes app synced automatically to our shared cloud. She used it as a journal, something I'd never known. Fragments of her inner life, backed up to servers she'd forgotten existed. April 12th. W gave me the most beautiful earrings today. Art Deco, from an estate sale he found. He says they remind him of me. Elegant with hidden depths. I wore them home. R didn't even notice. May 3rd. W says we need to be more careful. R almost noticed the earrings. But I can't stop thinking about what we have. For the first time in years, I feel alive. Is that wrong? To want to feel alive? May 17th. Our future feels more real every day. W is looking at apartments in Boston. He says when I tell R, I should do it cleanly. No drama, just the truth. But how do you tell someone you've been lying to them for over a year? May 28th. R is so predictable. The anniversary dinner is next week. He'll probably give me some thoughtful gift that he spent months planning. He always does. I'll smile and say thank you and pretend everything is fine. One more performance. Then I can finally stop pretending. June 1st. I'll play the part one more time. I owe R that much. But soon it will all be over, and I can finally be with someone who understands me. Someone who sees me, W says I deserve to be seen. I read her private thoughts about our marriage, about her boredom, about how I was stable but passionless, how William made her feel intellectually alive for the first time in years, how she'd been planning this exit for over a year. The escape fund had grown. $22,000, siphoned from our joint accounts in small increments, labeled as groceries, utilities, household supplies, all going toward a future that didn't include me. I sat in my office with the door locked, reading my wife's secret plans to destroy our life together. Reading about her excitement, her anticipation, her complete lack of guilt. June 15th. He gave me Rebecca, a first edition. The book W gave me in March. For a moment I thought R knew, that he was mocking me somehow. But he doesn't know anything. He never does. He just remembered something I said years ago and thought it would make me happy. Poor Richard. He's always trying so hard. Poor Richard. Something changed inside me that night. The hurt was still there, but it had companions now. A cold clarity. A sense of purpose. I didn't just want a divorce anymore. I wanted her to understand exactly what she had done. I wanted William Ashford to face consequences for his patterns. And I wanted to control how this ended. Not as a victim, but as the architect of their undoing. You look terrible. My brother James stood in my doorway, overnight bag in hand. He'd driven up from D.C. without calling ahead, unusual for him. James was a federal prosecutor, methodical about everything, including his schedule. I'm fine, I said, just busy with work. Liar. He pushed past me into the house. Where's Emma? Sales conference, back Sunday. James dropped his bag by the stairs and studied my face. We'd always been close, only 18 months apart, raised by parents who believed in honesty above all else. He knew me better than anyone. I talked to Mom, he said. She said you sounded off on the phone last week. I figured I'd check in. You drove 4 hours because I sounded off? I drove 4 hours because my brother is clearly going through something and won't admit it. He walked to the kitchen and opened the refrigerator. You have beer? I poured us both whiskey instead. We sat in the living room, the same room where William would soon sit with my wife, though neither of us knew that yet. Tell me, James said. So I told him. Everything. The inscription, the gifts, the fake retreats, the professor from Boston, the journal entries, the escape fund. James listened without interrupting. That was his gift. The ability to hear a story through to its end before passing judgment. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time, swirling his whiskey. How long have you known? 6 weeks, maybe 7. And you haven't confronted her? No. Why not? I thought about how to explain it. When I first found the inscription, my instinct was to explode, throw things, scream at her, demand answers. I stared into my glass. But I didn't. I sat in my car for almost an hour, just breathing. And somewhere in that hour, I realized something. What? That exploding would feel good for about 30 seconds. And then I'd be the angry husband who flew off the handle, and she'd be the victim of my rage, and somehow the conversation would shift from what she did to how I reacted. I met his eyes. I've watched enough couples implode to know how that story goes. The person who loses control loses the narrative. James nodded slowly. Smart. Painful, but smart. So instead, I started documenting, watching, building a case. I finished my whiskey. And the more I learned, the worse it got. This isn't a woman who made a mistake, James. This is a woman who's been systematically planning to destroy my life while kissing me goodbye every morning. What do you want? He finally asked. I want to be free of her. I want her to lose everything she's been building with him, and I want to look her in the eye when it happens. That's anger talking. No, anger is hot. This is cold. I met his eyes. I've had weeks to think about it. Every morning I wake up in bed with a woman who's been planning to destroy my life while kissing me goodbye. Every evening, I come home to a house full of gifts from her lover. Every night, I lie next to her and wonder which parts of the last 14 months were real and which were performance. And none of that makes you angry? It did, at first. Now it just makes me clear. I poured us both another drink. There's a freedom in knowing the truth, even when the truth is ugly. I know exactly who she is now. I know exactly what she's capable of. And I know exactly what I need to do. James studied me for a long moment. You're scaring me a little, brother. Why? Because you sound too calm, too controlled, like a man planning something he might regret. I'm not planning anything illegal. I'm not planning anything violent. I held his gaze. I'm planning to protect myself, to ensure that when this ends, and it will end soon, I come out of it intact. Is that so wrong? No, it's not wrong, it's just… He shook his head. Most people in your situation fall apart. They make mistakes. They let emotions drive them into stupid decisions. You're not doing any of that. I can't afford to. I have too much to lose. James nodded slowly. Then you need to be smart. Don't let anger make you stupid. I'm not angry. You should be. What she's doing… He shook his head. But revenge is a trap. It feels good in the planning and empty in the execution. Trust me, I've seen it in 100 courtrooms. I don't want revenge. I want justice. There's a difference. Maybe. He set down his glass. Here's what I know. If you go nuclear, you might win the battle and lose the war. If you're strategic, you can win both. What do you suggest? Document everything legally. Don't do anything that could backfire in court. And most importantly, let her make the first visible move. When she does, you respond with overwhelming force. Why wait? Because right now, you're the victim. You're the wronged husband who did everything right. The moment you act aggressive, even if justified, you become the villain in her story. And in court, stories matter. I thought about it. So I wait. You wait, you prepare, you build your case until it's airtight. And when she finally makes her move, he smiled grimly. You hit her with everything. We talked until past midnight. James offered specific advice. Asset protection strategies, documentation methods, the importance of maintaining normalcy until the right moment. Before he left the next morning, he mentioned one more thing. The name you mentioned. Ashford. William Ashford. You know him? Not personally, but I know of him. James paused at the door. 3 years ago, his name came up in connection with a grant fraud investigation at his university. Misuse of travel funds for personal purposes. The investigation was dropped. Insufficient evidence. Political pressure. But people remember. What are you telling me? I'm telling you that William Ashford believes rules don't apply to him. He's gotten away with things before. Men like that always think they'll keep getting away with it. James met my eyes. Until they don't. Over the following weeks, I became two people. The first Richard was the husband Emma had always known. Attentive, loving, devoted. I brought her flowers, suggested weekend getaways, told her how beautiful she looked. I played the role perfectly, never once letting the mask slip. The second Richard was the architect of her downfall. He documented every withdrawal, photographed every gift, tracked every location, built a case so comprehensive that no lawyer could dismiss it. I discovered more about William Ashford. His second wife, Diane, had received a substantial settlement after their divorce. Court records mentioned emotional cruelty and persistent infidelity. Her social media told the story, posts about narcissistic abuse recovery, about rebuilding after gaslighting, about finally being free. I found records of an ethics complaint filed against William 7 years ago. A junior faculty member had reported him for inappropriate conduct with a graduate student, a young woman who was engaged at the time. The complaint was quietly dropped. The student transferred. No consequences. And I discovered that William was up for a prestigious department chair position. The vote would happen in 2 months. His chief rival was a professor named Patricia Vance, who had publicly clashed with him for years over departmental resources and priorities. The landscape was becoming clear. I just needed to choose my moment. "I have to tell you something," I said to Emma one evening. We were sitting on the patio, watching fireflies drift across the lawn. Summer had arrived in full force. Warm nights, the smell of cut grass, the distant sound of children playing in a neighbor's yard. Emma looked up from her wine. Something flickered behind her eyes. "What is it?" "The Seattle project, the Webster Building renovation." I paused for effect. "They want me on site for 3 weeks, maybe a month." I watched her process this, watched her calculate, watched her try to hide the relief that washed across her features. "When do you leave?" "Week after next. I know it's bad timing, but this is a major opportunity." "No, of course." She reached across to squeeze my hand. "You should absolutely go. This is important for your career." "You'll be okay without me?" "I'll manage." She smiled. "Maybe I'll use the time for some writing. Really dig into the novel." "The novel?" "Right." I smiled back. "How's that going anyway?" "Slowly. But I'm finding my voice." That night, she was more affectionate than she'd been in months. Kissed me deeply. Told me she loved me. The guilt of a woman who saw freedom approaching. I felt nothing. Not anger. Not sadness. Just the cold satisfaction of a plan coming together. My brother's cabin sat on 20 acres of woodland in upstate New York. No neighbors. No cell service without driving to a specific spot on the property. I'd spent childhood summers here, fishing in the stream and learning to build fires. Now I used it as my command center. The cameras were legal, my property, my right, verified by Tyler Bennett. Not in bathrooms or the bedroom, just the common areas. Living room, kitchen, foyer. Motion activated with audio. On day 3 of my supposed Seattle trip, a silver Audi pulled into my driveway. I watched through my laptop as William Ashford stepped out. Watched as he straightened his jacket, checked his reflection in the car window, walked up the steps with the confidence of a man who owned the place. Emma opened the door before he could knock. "You're here." She threw her arms around him. "Finally." "Traffic on I-91. He kissed her, deep and lingering. "But I'm here now." They stepped inside. My foyer, my living room. "I opened a bottle of the Chateau Neuf du Pape," Emma said. "The good one. Richard has a whole case in the cellar." "How thoughtful of him." They laughed. At me, in my own house. I watched them drink my wine, watched them curl up on my sofa, watched them talk about their future, Boston apartments, weekend schedules, the logistics of starting over. "Have you told him yet?" William asked. "Soon. I was thinking next month, after his Seattle project is done." "The longer you wait." "I know. But I want to do this right. 14 years deserves a proper ending." 12, William corrected. "You've been married 12 years. "Right, 12. Emma shook her head. "See? I'm already forgetting." William pulled out a folder of papers. "Before we go any further, I need you to look at this." "What is it?" "A prenuptial agreement. For us. For after." Emma stiffened. "Isn't that a bit premature?" "I've been burned before." William's voice shifted. Harder now, more businesslike. "Twice. I need to know we're entering this with our eyes open, that we're both protected." "Protected from what?" "I thought you trusted me." I do trust you. This isn't about trust. It's about being practical. He slid the papers across the coffee table. My lawyers drew it up. Standard terms. What's yours stays yours. What's mine stays mine. But I'm leaving everything for you. My house, my savings, my... Emma. He took her hands. I love you. You know I do. But I'm not going to make the same mistakes I made before. Sign this, and we can move forward. Together. She signed. Of course she signed. What choice did she have? I captured the timestamp. Tyler Bennett reviewed the footage on a Tuesday morning. His expression remained neutral, but I could see the wheels turning. This is excellent, he said. Your home, your cameras, completely admissible. And the prenup conversation shows he was already protecting himself from her. Exactly. It undermines any claim she makes about a committed relationship. He was treating her as a liability, not a partner. Bennett shuffled through my documentation. The financial records are comprehensive. She's been systematically dissipating marital assets for over a year. 27,000 total. I tracked every withdrawal. And the cloud backup? Location data, journal entries, everything dated and preserved. Bennett leaned back. When do you want to move? Tuesday, 2:15 p.m. Specific time. She has her regional sales meeting at 2. All her colleagues will be in the conference room. I want the papers delivered there. Bennett raised an eyebrow but didn't comment. I can arrange that. And the ethics complaint? I'll send it Monday evening. Timing matters. I want the university to receive it the same week his personal life explodes. The department chair vote is in 3 weeks. I know. Bennett studied me for a long moment. Mr. Lawson, I've handled a lot of divorces. Some clean, most ugly. I've seen people destroy themselves trying to destroy their spouses. Is that a warning? It's an observation. You're remarkably composed for a man whose wife has been cheating on him for over a year. I had time to process, and I'm not trying to destroy her. I'm trying to protect myself. There's a difference? There's a difference, I said, between revenge and consequences. She made choices, so did he. I'm simply making sure those choices have appropriate outcomes. Bennett nodded slowly. Then let's proceed. The ethics complaint took me 2 hours to write. I revised it until every word served a purpose. To whom it may concern. I am writing to bring to your attention a pattern of conduct by Professor William Ashford that I believe warrants investigation by the university's ethics committee. Professor Ashford has a documented history of inappropriate relationships with students and workshop participants. 7 years ago, a complaint was filed against him regarding a graduate student. This complaint was dropped under circumstances that remain unclear. I have direct knowledge of Professor Ashford's current relationship with a married woman who participated in one of his off-campus writing workshops. This relationship has been ongoing for approximately 18 months. Given the upcoming vote on the department chair position, I believe the committee should be made aware of these concerns before any permanent appointment is made. This complaint is not anonymous. I am prepared to provide documentation upon request. I attached the relevant evidence: times, dates, locations, nothing illegally obtained, nothing that couldn't be verified through independent investigation. I sent the email Monday at 6:47 p.m. Tuesday at 2:15. Emma's phone buzzed in her purse. She was mid-sentence, presenting quarterly projections to her team when the conference room door opened. A man in a dark suit entered. Emma Lawson? Yes, can this wait? I'm in the middle of, you've been served. He handed her the papers and left. The room went silent. Emma's colleagues stared as she opened the envelope, watched her face drain of color, watched her excuse herself, hands shaking, papers clutched to her chest. I know this because her assistant, a young woman named Priya, who had always liked me, described it to me later, after everything came out. She looked like she'd seen a ghost, Priya said. Just stood there for a moment, not moving. Then she grabbed her purse and ran out. Didn't say a word to anyone. My phone rang 27 times that evening. Emma's number, over and over. I let it go to voicemail. The texts started around 5. Richard, please call me. We need to talk about this. You don't understand what happened. I never meant to hurt you. Call me. Then, around 8. This is insane. You're being vindictive. I'm entitled to half of everything. My lawyer says so. You can't do this to me after 12 years. Then, around 11, please, Richard, I know I made mistakes. Can we just talk? Like adults? I responded once. 3 words. Communicate through lawyers. Then I turned off my phone and went for a walk around the lake near my brother's cabin. The stars were brilliant that night. No light pollution this far from the city. I stood on the dock for a long time, watching them, feeling nothing except a quiet certainty that I had done the right thing. The university moved faster than I'd expected. William's candidacy for department chair was suspended within a week. A formal investigation was opened. He was required to meet with the ethics committee and respond to specific allegations. His lawyer, I learned later, advised him to cut ties with anything that complicated his situation. Any relationship that could become additional evidence. The email arrived in Emma's inbox on a Thursday evening. I know this because she forwarded it to me, screenshotted it, and sent it with a single line. Are you happy now? Dear Emma, given the circumstances we both now find ourselves in, I believe it's best for both of us to focus on our own challenges. Continuing our relationship at this time would only complicate matters further. I wish you well in your future endeavors. Sincerely, William. 2 paragraphs. The end of an 18-month affair. The dissolution of all Emma's plans for her new life. I did not respond to her message. Emma's parents called me 3 days after the service. Her father, Raymond, had always liked me. We'd bonded over football and bourbon during holiday visits, 2 men who understood each other without needing many words. Her mother, Catherine, was more reserved, polite but distant, always seeming to measure me against some standard I couldn't see. Richard? Raymond's voice was tired. We heard about what's happening. Emma called us. I imagine she did. We want you to know. He paused, and I heard Catherine's voice in the background, urging him on. We want you to know that we don't condone what she did, what she's been doing. I sat down in my brother's cabin, phone pressed to my ear. I appreciate you saying that. Catherine's devastated. She raised Emma to be better than this. We both did. Another pause. She says she fell in love. That's her explanation. As if love justifies betraying a man who's been nothing but good to her for 12 years. 14, I said automatically. We were together 14 years, married for 12. 14 years. Raymond exhaled heavily. Richard, I'm not calling to make excuses for my daughter. I'm calling because you deserve to hear from someone in this family that what she did was wrong. Plain wrong. Thank you, Raymond. If there's anything we can do, I know it's complicated legally, but Catherine and I want you to know our door is always open to you. Whatever happens between you and Emma, you're still family in our eyes. I didn't know how to respond to that. The kindness caught me off guard. I'd been braced for blame, for defense of their daughter, for the tribal loyalties that families usually fall back on. I appreciate that more than you know, I finally said. After I hung up, I learned from Emma's journal entries that Catherine had called her that same evening. The conversation had not gone well. Emma had accused her mother of taking Richard's side and had hung up in tears. I felt nothing about that either. Diane Warren, formerly Diane Ashford, lived in a restored farmhouse in Connecticut. I found her through careful research and reached out with a carefully worded email. Her response came within an hour. Mr. Lawson, I've been waiting 7 years for someone to finally hold William accountable. He's a predator who disguises himself as a romantic, and he's destroyed more lives than he'll ever admit. Whatever you need from me, I'll provide. We spoke by phone the following day. Diane was measured, intelligent, still angry after all these years. He's a collector, she said. That's how you have to understand him. He doesn't fall in love. He acquires people, especially married women. There's something about the conquest that excites him. How many were there during your marriage? That I know of? 3. That I suspect? More. Her voice hardened. And the university covered for him. They always cover for him. Tenure, prestige, the old boys' network protecting their own. Would you be willing to provide testimony? I'll do better than that. I have documentation, emails, texts, a whole file I compiled during the divorce. My lawyer said it might be useful someday. She paused. Someday is now. Diane's testimony to the University Ethics Committee was devastating. She detailed William's patterns with clinical precision. The initial seduction, the love bombing, the gradual control, the inevitable discard when someone new caught his attention. Other women came forward. A former workshop participant, a colleague's wife, a graduate student who had transferred rather than face him. The pattern was undeniable. The divorce proceedings lasted 6 months. Emma's lawyer tried everything. She argued the marriage had been broken for years. Constructive abandonment. My lawyer presented footage from our anniversary dinner, showing me presenting a thoughtful gift while Emma smiled and pretended. She argued the financial withdrawals were Emma's personal discretionary spending. My lawyer presented the forensic accountant's report. $27,000 systematically transferred over 14 months, all disguised as household expenses. She argued the home surveillance violated Emma's reasonable expectation of privacy. My lawyer presented the deed, the title to every piece of furniture, and a complete brief on property owners' rights. The judge was unimpressed with Emma's arguments. In one particularly memorable exchange, Emma's lawyer tried to argue that my surveillance of our home was evidence of controlling behavior that had driven Emma into another man's arms. Tyler Bennett responded calmly. Your Honor, Mr. Lawson installed security cameras in his own home, on property he owns, as is his legal right. He did so only after discovering evidence of his wife's infidelity. This is not controlling behavior. This is a husband protecting his interests after learning his wife had been deceiving him for over a year. But the timing, Emma's lawyer began. The timing is entirely consistent with a husband who discovered his wife was cheating and wanted documentation for legal proceedings, which, I might add, has proven justified given the evidence we've presented. The judge turned to Emma's lawyer. Counselor, do you have any evidence that Mr. Lawson's surveillance preceded the affair? That it was part of some pattern of controlling behavior? No, Your Honor, but then I'm not inclined to entertain this line of argument. The judge made a note. The cameras were legally installed, in common areas only on property owned by Mr. Lawson. I see no basis for excluding this evidence. I watched Emma's face fall. Another pillar of her defense crumbling. During her deposition, Emma broke. I was there. I had the right to be present, watching from across the conference table as she tried to explain herself. I fell in love, she said, tears streaming. I know that's not an excuse, but it's the truth. Richard and I had grown apart. We wanted different things. I thought I'd found someone who understood me. Her lawyer nudged her. Stay focused on the questions. But Emma looked directly at me. I never meant for it to happen this way. I was going to tell you. I was planning to be honest. I said nothing. My face revealed nothing. I'd practiced this expression, professional neutrality, until I could hold it indefinitely. I think the emptiness was worse than anger. She could have fought anger. She couldn't fight nothing. The final decree came down on a November morning. Emma was ordered to repay the dissipated assets. Her share of marital property was substantially reduced. She received no alimony. I got the house, though I'd already decided to sell it. I got the investment accounts. My retirement funds were protected. Emma signed the papers in her lawyer's office. I didn't attend. I sent Tyler Bennett in my place. By then, I was in another state, starting a new project. The old life was being dismantled and sold to strangers who would never know its history. William Ashford was formally censured by his university. He kept his job, tenure protected him, but lost the department chair position. His teaching load was reduced. His Vermont cottage sold at a loss. At 47, with a shattered reputation and mounting legal fees, he was starting over. Again. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, a letter arrived at my new apartment. I recognized Emma's handwriting on the envelope. I almost threw it away unopened. But something made me read it. Richard, I know you probably won't read this. I wouldn't blame you if you threw it away. I'm not going to ask for forgiveness. I don't think I deserve it. What I did was a betrayal of everything we built together. I was unhappy for a long time. I didn't know how to tell you. I convinced myself it was easier to find happiness elsewhere than to have the hard conversations I should have had with you years ago. William was a fantasy. I know that now. He never loved me. I was just another conquest. When things got difficult, he disappeared. You deserved honesty. I should have given you that. I hope you find someone who appreciates you. Emma. I read the letter twice. Then I folded it and placed it in a drawer with the divorce papers. I didn't respond. A year later, I heard through professional contacts that William had tried to reconnect with Emma. She'd refused. I didn't care enough to learn more. What I know is this. Some structures can't be repaired. The damage goes too deep. When that happens, you have two choices. Keep patching and pretending while the cracks spread wider every year, or tear it down, clear the site, and build something new. I chose to build. 2 years after everything ended, I ran into someone who knew William Ashford. It was at an industry conference in Philadelphia. Green building practices, sustainable design. I was on a panel about adaptive reuse of historic structures. During the networking reception afterward, a woman approached me. "You're Richard Lawson," she said. It wasn't a question. "I am. I'm Patricia Vance." She extended her hand. "I don't know if you remember, but you got the department chair position after William Ashford was censured." She smiled thinly. "I see you kept track." I was invested in the outcome. We moved to a quieter corner of the reception hall. Patricia was younger than I'd expected. Mid-40s with sharp eyes and the kind of precise diction that comes from years of academic sparring. "I wanted to thank you," she said. "I know you were the one who filed the ethics complaint. The committee kept your identity confidential, but it wasn't hard to figure out. Does it matter who filed it? It matters that someone finally did." She sipped her wine. "William Ashford has been untouchable for 20 years. Publications, grants, powerful friends. Everyone knew what he was, the affairs, the manipulation, but no one ever did anything about it. And now? Now he teaches 3 classes a semester, sits on no committees, and advises no graduate students. His last book got mixed reviews. His speaking invitations have dried up." Patricia's smile was grim. "It's not enough. It will never be enough. But it's something." I thought about what she'd said, about accountability, about how long it takes for patterns to have consequences. He'll try again, I said. Men like him always do. Probably. But now there's a record, a paper trail. The next time a young woman raises concerns about him, she won't be dismissed quite so easily. Patricia finished her wine. Sometimes that's all you can do. Make it harder for them the next time. I never saw her again after that night, but I thought about her words for a long time afterward. Lauren asked me about Emma once. We'd been together for 8 months by then, past the initial glow, into the territory where people start sharing the things they're not proud of. We were cooking dinner at her apartment, me chopping vegetables while she stirred something aromatic on the stove. Can I ask you something personal? You can ask. I might not answer. Fair enough. She adjusted the flame. Do you ever think about her? Your ex-wife? I considered the question. Really considered it, because Lauren deserved a real answer. Sometimes, I said. Not often. Not the way I used to. What way is that? I used to replay conversations. Wonder if I'd missed signs earlier. Ask myself what I could have done differently. I set down the knife. Now I just remember. Like remembering a house I used to live in. It was part of my life, but it's not anymore. Lauren nodded slowly. That sounds healthy. Does it? Healthier than some alternatives. She turned to face me. My ex-husband cheated too. Did I ever tell you that? No. 3 years ago. I found out on our anniversary, actually. Classic timing. Her voice was steady, matter of fact. I spent a year being angry, another year being sad. Then I realized I was wasting time, my time, on someone who wasn't worth it. How did you stop? I didn't stop. I just redirected. Started focusing on what I wanted instead of what I'd lost. She smiled. It's not perfect. Some days are still hard, but it gets better. I crossed the kitchen and kissed her. Thank you. For what? For being honest, for not pretending this is easy. Nothing worth having is easy. She handed me a wooden spoon. Now stir this. I need to check the oven. The last time I thought about Emma was on a quiet Sunday morning 3 years after the divorce. I was reading the paper at my kitchen table, a habit I'd picked up from my father and never managed to shake, even in the age of smartphones. Lauren was still asleep in the bedroom. The coffee was good. The sunlight was warm. I turned a page and saw a small announcement in the society section. Emma Lawson, now Emma Harrington, had remarried. Her new husband was a dentist from Connecticut. They'd honeymooned in Italy. I read the announcement twice, waited for some feeling to arrive. Anger, sadness, jealousy, something. Nothing came. I folded the paper and finished my coffee. Then I went back to the bedroom, kissed Lauren awake, and suggested we go out for brunch. You're in a good mood, she said, stretching. It's a beautiful day. I'm with a beautiful woman. What's not to be happy about? She laughed and threw a pillow at me. Flattery will get you everywhere. Give me 20 minutes. I waited by the window while she showered, watching the city wake up below. Somewhere out there, Emma was starting a new life with a new husband. William Ashford was grinding through another semester of diminished prestige. And I was here, in a home I'd built myself, with a woman who understood me. The past was the past. It had shaped me, taught me, hardened me in ways I hadn't expected. But it didn't own me anymore. The first edition of Rebecca sat on a shelf in my new office. I'd kept it, though I wasn't sure why. One evening, I took it down. Opened it to the inscription page. To my one and only love. You know who. I got a razor blade from my desk. Carefully cut the inscription page free from the binding. Burned it in the fireplace and watched the words turn to ash. Then I placed the book back on my shelf. The story remained. The inscription didn't. Some things can be preserved without preserving the damage inside them.